is the goal of an apostate? Brother Sood, please.
Well, it is to tear down God's people, and as the paragraph says, to distort the truth. Whatever it takes to get people away from Jehovah and his organization, that is their goal.
Yeah. So we're encouraged to seek whatever things are true. Apostates are wanting us to pull away from things that are not true. It's always the polar opposite of what Jehovah wants. Apostates are tearing you away. So news organizations, unsubstantiated reports, they're designed to pull you away from the truth. Where do we know for sure we're going to get 100% accurate information? Brother Sood?
jw.org.
That is the ultimate source for Jehovah's Witnesses on information regarding Jehovah's Witnesses. Go to the source. We welcome everyone to our Watchtower discussion. We'll be studying the first of two articles out of the August 2018 study edition of our Watchtower. It's entitled, "Do You Have the Facts?" That's something that we should all be interested in, because with the fast-paced news cycles that happen in our world today, it's easy to get caught up and swept away into the media. But as Jehovah's people, we're being encouraged to consider the challenges of obtaining the facts, and more importantly, obtaining them before we begin spreading them, because there's a danger in doing that. We're going to figure out how we can evaluate what is true and what is not true. And the Bible will help us with certain principles to come to those conclusions.
To make good decisions, we need solid facts. Therefore, we need to be highly selective and to choose carefully what information we will read. We should not waste our time viewing questionable internet sites, news sites, or reading unsubstantiated reports circulated via email. It is especially important to avoid websites promoted by apostates. Their whole purpose is to tear down God's people and to distort the truth. Poor quality information will lead to poor decisions. Never underestimate the powerful effect that misleading information can have on your mind and your heart.
Careful at looking at these internet sites and reading some of these emails. What is Google? Who gives Google authority? And there's just so many different opinions. So we have to be careful reading these things. And also, some of those are meant to tear down Jehovah's people. We watched a video last night, and it had referenced the Finished Mystery book. That's a very old book. And I Googled it because I thought I would love to reread that again. I read it as a kid. And sure enough, there was all kinds of apostate comments. So you have to be so careful, because they're meant to tear you down and to break your faith. And as Timothy says, it could cause you to deviate from your faith. So very, very cautious when we look at some of these sources.
The expression in 1 Timothy 6, verse 20 caught my attention, where it commented that we need to turn away from the empty speeches that violate what is holy and from the contradictions of the falsely called knowledge. And that's a problem with a lot of that information. They put out information just to contradict, to present opposing point of view, with the concept that it's going to expand our thinking, get all sides of the matter and everything. But here the scriptures are telling us that this could be a trap for us, and that we should never minimize the powerful effect that misleading information can have on our hearts and minds.
Yes, I look at this on the website every day, at the breaking news and the newsroom, and then when we have the monthly broadcasting for the month and stuff, I look at this stuff every day, because I know that Jehovah wants us to have the truth, and he is certainly going to provide it through our organization.
Yes, very good.
JW.org is a one-stop shop for us, because off of that we can get to the Watchtower library, we can get to the broadcast channel, we can stream meetings if we have access to that, and it's the way to get that material in the proper channels so that we know it's not distorted.
That's right. And if we decide to go to other sources for news, what do we need to make sure of if we decide to not just go to jw.org and get information? We're not forced to go there. We want to go there. That should be our primary source. But if we do go outside that, what do we want to make sure? Please, Sister Milo, please.
Well, the paragraph had talked about questionable news sites. So we'd want to go to a reputable news site and maybe cross-reference multiple news sites to make sure all the facts are lining up. And then it's not just some questionable news story that might be true. If it's only a little bit true, then it's not true at all.
So we hear cases and facts, and we see most of the news articles or most of the sources say one thing. We can't just take it on that account just because it's majority. We have to really look at what are the facts and go with that.
We need to be especially cautious when we come across reports regarding Jehovah's people. Never forget that Satan is the accuser of God's faithful servants. Therefore, Jesus warned that opposers would lyingly say every sort of wicked thing against us. If we take that warning seriously, we will not be shocked when we hear outrageous statements about Jehovah's people.
Why should we not be shocked if we hear outrageous reports about Jehovah's people? Let's start with Sister Brooke, please.
We should not be shocked because Satan is the accuser of our brothers and the ruler of this world. So the world will report shocking things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Sister Brooke. Please, Sister Karen.
Satan tells lies about Jehovah's people.
Yeah. Young ones, do we understand what a lie is? We know what a lie is, don't we? Karen was exactly right. He tells lies about Jehovah's people. Sister Owens, please.
And we see that Jesus warned us of this very clearly at Matthew 5, verse 11, where he said that people will reproach you, persecute you, and lying say every sort of wicked thing against you for my sake. So these things shouldn't surprise us at all because Jesus clearly warned us about them long ago.
There is another danger in quickly forwarding emails and text messages. In some lands, our work is under restriction or outright ban. Our opposers in such lands may purposely circulate reports designed to instill fear or to cause us to distrust one another. Consider what happened in the former Soviet Union. The secret police, known as the KGB, spread rumors that various prominent brothers had betrayed Jehovah's people. And many put confidence in such false reports, and as a result, they separated themselves from Jehovah's organization. How sad. Thankfully, many later returned, but some never did. Their faith was shipwrecked. How can we avoid such a disastrous outcome? Refuse to circulate negative or unsubstantiated reports. Do not be naive or gullible. Be sure you have the facts.
Well, in the former Soviet Union, am I saying that right? Soviet Union, the secret police, known as the KGB, they spread rumors that some well-known brothers had actually betrayed Jehovah's people. And sadly, as a result, many brothers believed these false stories and left Jehovah's organization. So we should refuse to spread negative or unconfirmed stories. And we should not believe everything we hear. Instead, we should be sure that we have the facts.
This particular paragraph made me think of what happened in 75. That might have not been spread by false or opposers, but we all know that in 75, everybody thought that was the end, etc. But it was a false report. It wasn't substantiated. We even saw it in the video not too long ago. And it was believed, and the same result happened. Many lost their faith, and they were shipwrecked. So whether it comes from bad or opposers or even internally, that's the lesson. Even within the congregation, we have to have the facts. or our faith can be in danger.
And to that scripture in 1 Timothy 1:19 talks about holding a good conscience. So if we were to take part in sending some information that turned out to be false to our brothers, that would probably, and we found out that that was not right, our conscience would be bothering us then. So we need to be able to hold a good conscience.
That's right. Very good. So, coincidence, simultaneously as we're studying this Watchtower, the annual meeting is taking place in New York. Is there anyone getting text messages from people from the annual meeting? Information that they've got? You see, this is what we're talking about. We want to, even though it might be coming from who we think is reliable, we still want to make sure, before we forward that information, make sure that it's good. Because if not, we could become responsible for shipwrecking someone's faith. We would never want that.
What though if you are a victim of a slanderous accusation? Jesus and John, the baptizer, experienced such a challenge. How did Jesus deal with false information? He did not spend all his time and energy defending himself. Instead, he encouraged people to look at the facts of what he did and what he taught. As Jesus said, wisdom is vindicated by its works. There is a valuable lesson here that we do well to learn. At times, people may say unfair or critical things about us. We may long for justice and wish that we could do something to undo the damage to our reputation. Yet, there is something we can do. If someone spreads a lie about us, we can live in such a way that no one will believe that lie. Indeed, as Jesus' example shows, our personal record of upright Christian conduct can wipe out half-truths and false accusations.
We can let our actions speak for us. We can live our lives in a way so that whatever lies people are telling about us, no one will believe.
That's right. That's right. Brother Rodriguez.
Yeah, and when we're slandered, that can be difficult. That can be difficult to accept. Somebody says something about us that's completely untrue, right? We feel like we're a very generous person, but they're saying, "Oh, he's so cheap. Cheap. This guy's cheap." It's like, oh, it hurts. Okay, let me get to the point. Yeah, so like Jesus didn't parade up and down the Palestine, Israel, counterpoint discussions with this. You know what? This is not true, and I'm going to prove that this is slander. He didn't do that. He just said, you know what? I'm just going to continue to live a godly life, and people are going to know that those things that are said against me are false. And what an example for us to follow.
And at times, the damage done to our reputation or the consequence of a false report, we want the situation to be made whole. But we can learn a lot from Mephibosheth with the preceding example. That situation was rectified. The person who accused them, he ended up taking half of his land. But his example, he didn't protest. He was humble and he focused on what is positive. So that's a good example for us if we're the victim of a false report.
Yes, leaning too heavily on our own understanding can become a snare. Our emotions and personal ideas could begin to govern our thinking. We may begin to feel that we can look at a situation and understand it, even though we do not have all the facts. How dangerous. The Bible clearly warns us not to lean on our own understanding.
According to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, we don't have the right to lean on our own understanding. Because it says in verse 5, trust in Jehovah with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. So this is not a suggestion, it's a commandment. And so we don't have the right to do that. And at 28:26, it says if we trust in our own heart, we're stupid. And so, of course, we want to completely rely on Jehovah, not rely on our own understanding.
The counsel in the past has been to defend our brother until we absolutely can't. So if the facts condemn him, well, that's the case. But if not, until we know all of that, we'd absolutely defend our brothers and let love cover things over. One thing to remember, too, is even if it's true, it may not be upbuilding. It may not be something worth passing on.
Very good. That's right.
That we're not going to accept every word without question. So if we do, someone says something, where'd you get that from? Where'd you hear that from? Oh, you know what? I don't know that's really reliable. Probably shouldn't pass that on.
Yeah, I like your approach, your questioning. We live in a multimedia world where information is key. You always get breaking news You get the alerts. The Associated Press is on the move. The network media news agencies, they're constantly feeding us with information beyond information. But what happens if we're cut off and Jehovah's people are left with just rumors, hearsay? You see how this article can be valuable to us, getting the facts about Jehovah, understanding principles involved in serving Jehovah. We're not going to believe everything that we hear. Because if we do, if we spread it, spreading inaccurate information is tantamount to disobedience to Jehovah. Keep that in mind when we think that we have the full truth. So the scripture at Proverbs 18:13 will ring deeply in our hearts and our minds. It tells us that when anyone replies to a matter before he hears the facts, it is foolishness and humiliating. Where do we know for sure we're going to get 100% accurate information? Brother Suit?
jw.org. jw.org. jw.org.